Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're finishing this week, this amazing week on talking about diversity and inclusion when it comes to leadership. And today I've decided to make the lesson all about understanding diverse personalities as a leader. So many times when we look at that word diversity, we look at race, we look at upbringing, we look at background, we look at status, etc. But really today, we don't really talk about it much, but we're going to look at personalities, which I think is so important when it comes to leadership. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. There's so much more to come. We're only in week 3 out of week 4, but even after this series, this leadership series, there's going to be so much more content that I would love for you to be a part of. Some good advice and some practice. Go ahead and take out something to write on. Take out some simple note taker. And if you haven't already, go ahead and give me your email down below in the Google form. And if you do so, I'm going to go ahead and email you a free note taker. And if you want to complete this course in its entirety for a free certificate of completion, I can go ahead and do that for you as well. All right, more information below, and let's begin. So this whole week, we've talked about Monday, understanding diversity and inclusion. Tuesday, how to build a community when it comes to being a leader of diversity and inclusion. And then finally, yesterday, the power of empathy and about how empathy truly is diversity and inclusion. So if you haven't seen those videos already, go ahead and take a look at them. You can check them out on our channel. But today's all about understanding diverse personalities. And I think this is so important as a leader. We all know that diversity, especially when it comes to the world, is increasing. And even more so when it comes to understanding personalities. There isn't one, there isn't two, there's multiple different categories of personalities that people can associate themselves with. All right, so today's plan is very simple. Number 1, learn more about your personality. And number 2, learn more about how to deal and lead others, especially if they're going to be on your team. We're going to use this website called 16personalities.com, and you've probably already used it, but here's the thing. Today, as we go through it, we aren't just going to find out our letters. No, we're going to dissect what that means. We're going to talk about, okay, let's say you're this. Well, how do you lead someone with this other type of personality? So that's really what we're going to do so far. So just a few things to keep in mind before you go below. There's a link in the description to the website, but many of you are still students. And I know no one likes to be called a young person, but let's be real. For a lot of my students, they're still relatively young. Even I'm young still. So it goes to show that please be patient. Please give it time. Experiences will automatically grow us. Will our letters change? Mine did a few times. Actually, 2 or even 3 of the letters changed over the course of the past 10, 15 years. So it goes to show, please be patient and understand that, yeah, as of right now, this is who you are in terms of what, based on the quality of your responses, based on what you told them in terms of what your personality is, but it could change. This assessment of you isn't 100% accurate. Even when I look at the data and that comes back for myself, I agree with the majority of it, but not all of it. So it's not 100% accurate. Next, there are many different personality types. So as you can see here, it's pretty even. For each of the 4 letters, you can either be extroverted, introverted, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. More on this in a moment. And as you can see, it's pretty 50-50 across the board, except sensing is usually a little bit more common than intuition, based on all the data that's been taken up by the Myers-Briggs Institute. In addition, if you take a look at across the board, you could be one of the following, and there's so many different options. The most common I looked up is this one right here, ISFJ. And then the second most common is ESFJ. All right. That being said, you could be one of the others, which is way less than those. But main point I'm trying to show you is that there's so much variety across the board. And finally, I've heard people tell me all the time, change can happen. I've heard people tell me over the years, change cannot happen. So where do I stand? I truly believe that change can happen. That being said, here's a question for you. Can a person who tests 91% introvert change into an extrovert over time? Well, people can debate this, but personally, I've seen it happen in someone very close to me. Number 1, Most people always say like, well, it's who you surround yourself with. So if you're an introvert 91%, as long as you hang out with extroverts, that itself will change you. No, that can change you a little bit. But once again, what I believe will even change you even more is number two. Take a look at this. It's more about if the person sees the purpose and importance of doing so. So let me give you an example. One of the leaders on our team along a while back in one of the programs that I was leading considered themselves a 91% introvert. And after every single conference that we've had, what they would do is they'd go talk to one person or two people, or maybe take some time to reflect and debrief about how it went, versus a lot of us would just go talk to people. That being said, I'll never forget the time in which this person came out of what they normally did, which is isolate themselves. And they told me, you know what? I'm not really serving others when I'm in that room by myself. Now, I value that time alone. I value that time to reflect and debrief. That being said, since we're only meeting for 30 more minutes, I'm going to power through. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and I'm going to go ahead and talk to people. I'm going to go ahead and share my story with people. I'm going to go ahead and hear the story of others, because that's where I truly believe through this program, I can make the biggest impact. Seeing this 91% introvert go ahead and get out of their shell and really put themselves out there for the benefit of others, over time, I saw this person grow. And I'm telling you right now, they tested to be like a 55% extrovert over the course of many years. So once again, I've seen it happen. The answer is yes, but it's not just about surrounding yourself. It's about seeing the importance and finding a purpose of putting yourself out of your comfort zone to and to best help others. All right, so when you're done, I just grabbed this from online. You're going to see a personality type, 4 letters, and then you're going to see some stats in terms of understanding kind of where you are in terms of your mind, energy, nature, tactics, and identity. If you scroll down, you're going to continuously look at this, and there's a button. So, and if you click that button, you're going to start reading. And I just took, once again, this is not my stats at all, but I took the most common one, the ISFJ. And as you look at that, you can read about an introduction, your strengths and weaknesses, relationship advice, friendships, etc. And then it'll tell you at the bottom who you're most like. So someone most likely famous. So come on, some of you ISFJs, you're most similar to Beyonce. And that is awesome to be compared to Beyonce. That's awesome. And then once again, take some time and go through each of these different categories and read a little bit about what it says about you. All right. So take some time and do that. That's something normally we don't do. We just look at our 4 letters and we move on. But there's so much value in taking the time to read each of these categories. Okay. So instructions for you, pause here. There's a lot left, but pause here. Please take the 16 personalities test, link in the description below, and then go ahead and please take the time to read each category. Remember, this is just to get an idea. I recommend not getting too invested into it, especially if you're still young, because most likely with the experiences, you're going to be changing. So you can pause it here, take the test, and then come back and we'll debrief it together. All right. So hopefully you're done with the personality test. There's 3 ways to save your results. You can either give them your email. It's going to ask for it. You don't have to. I didn't. And then number 2, you can write down your letters and then take a screenshot of your stats. So that's totally up to you on what you want to do. What do the letters in the Myers-Briggs test state? This website is titled 16 Personalities. Sorry, it's back there. But it's really the Myers-Briggs test. So if any time in the future someone asks you, hey, what's your Myers-Briggs letters? It's really the same thing. They just renamed it to the 16personalitiestest.com or something like that. Now, each Myers-Briggs personality type consists of 4 letters. So you don't need to write this down yet, but I need you to know that there's 2 letters for each of the 4 letters. So let's go through it. Okay, so go ahead and take some notes if you can right now. And this really helps you understand other people you serve. E stands for extroversion versus I stands for introversion, similar to extrovert and introvert. E stands for extroversion, and I'll read this out to you. And people who have had this personality preference are energized by the outer world and of people and things. They generally share their ideas verbally and recharge by being around people. Introversion, I stands for introversion, and people with this personality preference are energized by their inner world. See, one of the biggest misconceptions is that extroverted people are energized, are excited people, and people who are energized and people who are introvert are not. But energized is something that can explain either of them. It's just the big question is, what are you energized by? Extroverts are energized by the outer world. Introverts are energized by the inner world. I'm going to continuously read here. In contrast to people with preferences for extroversion, introverts use their energy interacting with people and things and gain energy by sometimes spending time alone and reflecting in their heads. They usually prefer to go through all their ideas and then share them out loud. Is that a bad characteristic? Not at all. See, so often than not in our society, leaders we always think have to be extroverts. I know so many leaders who are introverted and who lead hundreds of people. And once again, I actually value that as well. Because if you take a look here at the bottom, it says they prefer to go through their ideas and they think about what they say first and then they share them out loud. I love that. So once again, regardless of which one you tested, just understand the benefits of both. Note, any one person is not completely extroverted or introverted. Do you see that at the bottom? You can actually use both preferences throughout your day. Awesome. Letter 2, sensing or intuition. Go and write that down. And I think it said earlier that the majority of people are sensing. S stands for sensing. People who have had the letter S tend to process things in a step-by-step linear sequence, and they observe and remember specific information. They tend to focus on the facts and what can be observed with their 5 senses. That's hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Intuition, N. So it's not I, because introvert was already I. N is for intuition, because these are people who have a preference for generally learning by seeing the big picture and themes and thinking about how specific information is connected. So really understanding that, sensing versus intuition. And once again, some of you test 51% sensing, and it says that you're S. But remember, if you're right there in the middle, you should see both and see how they fit you. Thinking versus feeling. Letter number 3. Go and write this down. Thinking versus seeing. T is for thinking, and people who have had this preference tend to make decisions based on pros and cons and weighing the logistical or logical consequences from an objective point of view. That's pretty important there too. Hey, what are my pros and cons and what are the consequences? Some people are feeling. F stands for feeling. The letter F indicates someone who has had a preference for feeling, meaning that they make decisions based on how they might affect the people around them, how those decisions affect the people around them. So I love this down here. Just because you have a preference for thinking or feeling, it doesn't mean that you can't see things from the other side. In life, we need both. T, F, right? S, I, right? S, N, or I and E. We need both. But this is what you prefer to go to first based on how you are, okay? Finally, letter number 4, judging versus perceiving. J stands for judging, and people who have a preference for judging are list makers and planners. They like to have structure and schedule with their time and will generally space out projects so that they get work done in a short amount of time. Perceiving. If you're perceiving that people with this preference are ones who want flexibility in their lives and in how their time is managed. They would prefer to be open to new opportunities and make decisions on the fly, and sometimes enjoy working on things last minute or on their own schedule. Okay. So once again, I hope that this is helpful, but you have to understand that there's 2 ways to lead. Either you can have your leaders take the test and then talk about it, or 2, and this is what I prefer people do to me, give it time. Be organic, and over time, understand and learn how a person is. No one likes to be told to take a test, and then all of a sudden, like your leader looks at that and says, I know you. No, I'm more than a test. I'm more than 4 letters. So give it time and learn about it with each person. So you pick what is best for your leadership style. I usually go with number 2. In rare circumstances, if we've known each other for a while and we want to get to know each other even better, I'll do a number 1. Okay. My wife is integral in terms of this whole podcast and really these lessons, and we plan it on it so often. And she came up with a quick way to memorize 3 words. Cool. If you're going to be a leader, be cool. Celebrate, use, and learn. And here's what it means. To celebrate others, that's really what leaders should do. So often than not, I've actually been led by leaders who don't celebrate others. They'll compare you to them. And if you're different than them, they're not going to celebrate you. Instead, they're going to try to make you like them. That is not what leaders do. Even if you're different, leaders will find a way to celebrate you and say, wow, thank you for being how you are, and I wish I could be more like that. They're confident in who they are, and thus they can celebrate you. Leaders use people for their strengths. If I'm an introvert and someone's an extrovert, I'm not going to be intimidated by them. I shouldn't be. Instead, I should be like, hey, thanks for being a part of our team. Hey, can you go reach out to the following people? Can you work on this event, etc. They use their people's strengths. And leaders finally learn from them. As I said earlier, leaders don't just look at this test and say, all right, well, here's who I am. No, leaders learn from the people that work with them, and they grow and they try to be more like others in hopes in that they can kind of understand them better. Do you see that? Celebrate, use, and learn. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you continue with us and subscribing to our channel. Next week, we're talking all about bedside manner and professionalism in the workplace. So join us then, and once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.